So, with all this excess downtime that I've had, I began pondering a question that I tend to think about a lot. What makes a character a good character? Well, the issue with that question is that it is hands down the stupidest question I could have asked anyone because there is no correct answer. Everyone is going to have a differing opinion on a character, so creating a universal, yep, that's the most character ever, is impossible. The only thing that comes close to that feeling for me are characters that are never fully fleshed out or given their chance in the limelight, and believe me when I say, Fate is full of characters that fit into this category. Characters that have abilities or legends with untold boundaries and potential that are more or less left alone for one reason or another. My go-to example for this most of the time is Nursery Rhyme, but she at the very least gets some form of exploration and we'll get a dedicated video in the future. Today I want to focus on a character that has what I would argue is the potential to be one of the best villains in all of FGO, but has more or less been relegated to challenge quest content exclusively. That is none other than Artoria Pendragon Alter Lancer, or as I'm going to be calling her throughout this video, Lalter. Lalter is something of a ghost in the FGO machine. She had an appearance as the antagonist of London, kind of, and then just kind of vanished after that. To my knowledge, she has not appeared in the main story records since London and maybe Solomon, but she herself is a wealth of untapped opportunity. In fact, now that I think about it, the last time I recall even seeing her anywhere outside of Challenge Quest was the Kar no Kyokai event and a very, very brief cameo in Red Hair's interlude. She may as well just be another NPC boss fight at this point, because honestly, she is seen more as a difficult CQ boss than anything else. So then why am I dedicating a video entirely to her? Well, to understand that, you have to understand what exactly Lalter is. Lalter is more than just another Artoria face that was created for the sole purpose of garnering hype. She is the epitome of what an altar should be. Let's take a look at this graph to understand this better. This is the version of Artoria that happens when she dies at the Hill of Camelin after having Excalibur return to the Lady of the Lake. This is the Saber that we all know and love. Over here, we have two diverging timelines. These timelines are where Saber survives Camelin. In the rendition where she becomes the Lion King, it is because Bedivere did not return Excalibur to the Lady of the Lake, and thus Artoria was unable to die. So instead, she became something akin to a wandering ghost who became influenced by the Holy Spirit and eventually morphed into the goddess Rongomeniad of the Spear. Now, we actually can make an assumption as to how this transformation happened based entirely off of Lalter's description, which goes as follows. The transformation began at that instant. First was the flesh, then was the spirit. So what can be assumed is at this point, as Artoria lay dying, the spear itself essentially attempted to absorb her and convert her into something else. In one timeline, she does fully merge with that spear and becomes the Lion King, as I already said, and then goes on to do all that nonsense in Jerusalem. But Lalter is in a divergent timeline to that. As her spirit was about to become that of the goddess Rongomeniad, she usurped its power and instead made the decision to become the leader of the Wild Hunt. She was able to do this through having an inhumanely strong resolve in defining who she herself wanted to be. That is, she wanted to remain human, even at the cost of becoming a tyrant. She wanted to continue to rule, even if it meant becoming something outcast from humanity and godhood. In fact, once she had taken on this new form, she became a completely different person, clothing herself in her ideals. She took up the role of becoming the King of the Storm and the leader of the Wild Hunt. Now, I did my research, and the King of the Storm is not exactly a trope that warrants its own definition, and is more of a descriptor of a character who quite literally rules the storm. Most of what Google Scholar is giving to me is related to King Lear, which is far from what I think that we're going for here. Also, on normal Google, you get the Dark Souls 3 boss. According to the Type Moon wiki, it's literally the person who is able to control the storms, which is incredibly helpful because it describes nothing. But the interesting part of her description is becoming the leader of the Wild Hunt. For those that are unaware, the Wild Hunt is a trope that exists in literature. It is a posse of specters that were unable to go to heaven or hell and now charge through an area that is led by a mythological or historical figure. In the oldest traditions, this was normally someone with a connection to Odin or Odin himself, but was expanded outward to be something that can be led by a nameless wandering ghost or spirit, much like Artoria herself in this timeline. The Wild Hunt was an ill omen with various implications tied to it. For one, if people witnessed a Wild Hunt going through an area, it meant war, famine, plague, and death, i.e. the Four Horsemen, would certainly follow. In the night, if the Wild Hunt were to go through a town, the souls of the inhabitants would be pulled from their bodies and made to join the paranormal parade. And if you found yourself unlucky enough to be personally overrun by the party, it was believed that you would either be sent to the underworld alive or transported to the land of the Fae, and we've all seen how that goes. Keep in mind that historically, Arthur is attributed to being a leader of the Wild Hunt, so this is more than just the game devs wanting to have some fun. In fact, there are other leaders of the Wild Hunt that are in FGO right now. These include Fionn, Odin, and funnily enough, Kriemhild. Drake's noble phantasm actually manifests an oceanic wild hunt as well, though in history he is not accredited as being a leader of it. Also, the wild hunt is believed to be what inspired the Santa Claus tradition initially, as Odin was the OG Santa Claus, and it was believed that the wild hunt during the Yuletide was actually a good omen, so in a weird twisted way the existence of Santa Altar actually has some precedence. Back on track, the wild hunt being such a prevalent and powerful concept, strong enough to be the noble phantasm of another servant immediately makes Lalter a fascinating character from a power standpoint. If we are to go off of Drake's in-game noble phantasm, which has the ability to, quote, summon an uncountable number of ghost ships that eliminate the enemy, then it can be assumed that the effect has an infinite value of summonability. This immediately makes it just a strict upgrade to the likes of Iskander's noble phantasm, which caps out at how many people have devoted themselves to him. We can make the assumption that the effect is similar, but with a more all-encompassing area of effect. That is, the number of knights who served in Camelot who still consider themselves loyal to the king, and the mixture of fae, creatures, and the damned who would charge forth now they have a proper leader made manifest in Artoria. She is able to rule as a king to a court of ghosts. So then you may ask yourself, why haven't they done anything with this concept? Well, the answer is they did, but they didn't use her. They made the Lion King instead. The story of Camelot and FGO is incredibly close to what the proper concept of what Lalter should have been, but wasn't because she was introduced in London and already had some screen time. So in a sense, she was robbed. But now I see a door that is open that may allow her to finally have a chance to properly shine. Having her exempt from Lost Belt 6 is honestly a bit of a crime, but the fact that Lost Belt 6 exists gives us the opportunity to see her make a proper appearance as a villain. We had servants in Chaldea that have been from Lost Belts before, and I would not be surprised to find out that Lalter falls into that category. In fact, the funny one for that is our very own Mothman, who can appear as a servant before being Lost Belt 3 because of a, quote, error in the world's chronology, unquote, or something like that. The Lalter scenario practically writes itself. It's already been established that she is from a split timeline, and one where she herself is essentially an indestructible tyrant. Assuming that the England that she ruled is anything like England currently looks like, it would be no surprise that it got pruned away. The world in which she rules is one in which she herself is the law. She expands her territory outward, and the Wild Hunt claims more and more people as it simply continues to grow with each passing day. That is, until there is not but ghosts in the world and she herself is the last human, set to rule the desolate plane which she herself inadvertently asked for. The world in which she actually lives in this form has to exist for her to exist as a heroic spirit. This is partially explained away in game by just saying that the corruption of the Holy Grail could just do that to her, but I don't buy it. Lalter has been given some of the best build-up for a villain that I've ever seen in the franchise, but I don't understand how it has not been utilized at all. Now, to go back and answer what I meant when I said that Lost Belt 6 opens a door for her, the Wild Hunt is something that in the folklore of Brittany has an incredibly strong connection to the Fae. With the Fae now being a well-established thing in the Fate canon, having a scenario where a Harbinger of the Fae appears and begins sending heroic spirits to the realm of the Fae, or bringing the ghosts of the Fae that have been killed back, is a perfect story setup. Alright, so Lost Belt 6 spoilers incoming. All of the cryptors that have died, save for one, I believe fit perfectly into the category of too good for hell, but too bad for heaven. Even ones with redemption arcs would likely be stuck to Rome because of the crimes of obliterating humanity. So, this would also be an opportunity to have them appear again and not make it feel unnatural. In fact, if you want to take it a step further, you build a scenario like this. In order to maintain order in the Land of Ghosts, she shoved the souls of the deceased cryptors into heroic spirit shells akin to Fey Knights. She then set them to act as her personal guard. If you want to take the concept really far, then you could also use it in a way to naturally add back in NPC characters that died alongside their Lost Belts. The possibilities of this are endless. Lalter is built as a walking portal to the realm of the dead with the power of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It would be beyond simple to implement her into whatever the hell the second part of the Lost Belt scenario is planned to be. Lalter is a unique existence within Chaldea because of the level of mystery that surrounds her. As of right now, we know her as the King of the Storm based almost entirely around the fact that she appeared out of the Londinium fog. She has more to offer than just that, and much more to offer than just simply being a prelude to the Lion King. I have every faith that she will be brought back into the limelight at some point, even if that is just because she shares a face with Saber. My overall prediction with her is that we see her appear in a main scenario chapter that is actually an event like Seraph or Tunguska. I don't think they'd revisit Fae England already, but with so much already built into her, it'd be a damn shame to just let her sit in the second archives of Lasagna's Minds. But that is it. Let me know if you want me to do more stuff like this one, because I had a lot of fun with it. As much as I love history, theory crafting is always something I have a good time with. Do all the YouTube stuff with the likes, the comments, and the subscriptions and whatnot. Check the description for links to my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter. For now, though, keep your chin up. It's good to be back. Peace.